gathered journalists from all over the world on this Zoom news conference, and we wish that we could be in person, but we'll do what we can with technology today, and hopefully no glitches. With me here at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton is the chair of our board of directors, Janice Agrios. Joining us from Phoenix today is our club president and CEO, Chris Presson. Chris flew down to Phoenix to collect his family and his belongings back in March, thinking he'd be back in Edmonton in a couple of weeks. And then the border closed, and obviously all of our lives got a lot more complicated. But he's finally able to move back to Edmonton later this week, and once he and his family have completed their quarantine, he'll be back in the office. We'll hear short opening statements today from Janice and Chris, and then we'll take your questions. I'm going to ask you to please type your questions into the Q&A box on the Zoom screen. You'll see it on the bottom of your screen. And type your name, your outlet, and your question. I'm afraid we have too many people on the line to enable us to do live questions to make that feasible today. Your question won't be visible to your colleagues, though. I'll put the question to Janice or Chris as appropriate, and we'll get through as many questions as we possibly can. We'll only have time to take questions from accredited journalists today, so please do ensure that you include your name and your outlet when you're typing your question. Today's session is being recorded, and parts or all of that recording may be posted to the website or to social media afterwards. With that, I'll hand it over to Janice Agrios, chair of the EE football team, to start us off. Janice?
Great, thank you, Lori. This is a very important day in the history of our football club. The Edmonton Eskimo Football Club will be discontinuing the use of the word Eskimo in its name. This team is the most successful franchise in modern Canadian Football League history. Like many Edmontonians, the Edmonton Eskimos have always been part of my life. My father became one of the Nervous Nine group of directors in the 1960s, shortly before I was born. And I started attending games when I was about 10 years old back in Clark Stadium. To those of us who spent our formative years bundling up to sit in the stands and cheer on our team in below zero temperatures, the name Eskimos meant tough, resilient, never give up. It also meant community and respect. We identified with this name. In recent years, however, we've come to understand the concerns with the name. We know that those who originally named the team did not intend to be disrespectful or derogatory. In fact, the very opposite. They were proud to associate themselves with such a resilient northern people. The alliteration of the two words, our northern location, the name felt like a natural fit. However, that doesn't mean we can continue to use this name. Today culminates a long journey. Some people have suggested that our research and engagement efforts were just optics, trying to justify keeping the name. Nothing could be further from the truth. Our board and our management spent countless hours over several years seeking to understand the views of the Inuit and the community at large. Our process included extensive travel to many northern communities. It also included formal opinion research to understand the views of Inuit Canadians. As we have shared previously, there is no consensus among the Inuit, just as there is no consensus among other Canadians. Given that lack of consensus earlier this year, we made a decision to retain the name while we continued to engage and build relationships with Inuit communities. But 2020 is already a year of unprecedented upheaval. Our most recent opinion research shows plainly that views are shifting quickly. People who defended the name only a year ago are less comfortable with it now. Institutions are being renamed around the world. The change to our name is part of a sweeping societal change. Thank you to those members of the Inuit community who spent time sharing their views with us over the past 3 years. To those Inuit who told us they loved having a football team called the Eskimos, we hope that we can continue to be your team. To those who were offended by the name, we have heard you and recognize your concerns. This team is so much more than its name. This team leads the league for championships in the modern era. It won an incredible 5 Grey Cups in a row. It's the world's northernmost football team, and it's a leader in hands-on engagement in the community. Changing our name will not change our core identity or the values we stand for: resilience, strength, respect, and community. A great team for a great city. The exciting but tough part comes next: finding a new name for this great organization. Team President Chris Presson is going to talk about that before we take your questions. Chris?
Thank you, Janice. And thanks to everyone who's joined us for this call. I wish we could be together in person. Today's news can only be viewed as one of the most monumental and historic occasions in the history of our club. When you look at what's going on around our world, here in the great province of Alberta, through the wonderful city of Edmonton, all the way down to our team, things have been challenging recently. Edmonton is not a very big place, and it's pretty far north, but every sports fan in North America has heard of Edmonton. They know it as one of the truly great sports teams. They come out to games, they wear their colors, they stand by their teams through the winning streaks and the dry spells. I think we have the best fans not only in our city, but in this league. That's why I feel confident that our fans will support us through this historic name change. This is tough for longtime fans, no question, but here's the thing. We're all a team. Our team and game day itself are designed to unite people. Team means 2 or more people working together. Our game is designed to bring people together for a half day so they can leave their worries and struggles behind. Now, more than ever, we all need a mental break. We need unity, not divisiveness. So, what happens next? To be honest, we're not very far down that path yet. I can't give you a specific timeline or process, but the chance to choose a new name for the future of this team, a name that captures those Edmonton values, that's a great opportunity. We don't have a new name yet, but the list of possibilities is growing every day. Already, every 6:30 Shed talk show and every physically distanced barbecue is talking about nothing but new name possibilities. We're listening to all of it. We want to engage our fans in helping us pick the new name. We do have to ask for your patience. COVID has hit us hard financially, just like every sport and entertainment business. It will take time to change all the places that mention the Eskimo name, and we will be working on that process as funds allow as we go forward. We're looking forward to being back in front of our own great fans on the brick field. Whenever that happens, that's when we want to launch our new identity. I can tell you that we sure love our green and gold and our double E. It's early days, but we hope to keep that iconic logo. Finally, I want to express our strongest gratitude to our sponsors and our season seat holders. They have seen us through difficult conversation, and we literally could not be here without them. Indeed, we are counting on our sponsors and season seat holders to give us more than just moral support over the next few months. Branding isn't cheap, and we need to get this right. We need those great companies and those great season seat holders behind us. To everyone on the football team, I hope you'll join me in respecting our past and looking ahead to the future. A future of prosperity, not one of despair. A future of building upon the wonderful legacy the Eskimo name stood for to us. We haven't forgotten the blood, sweat, and tears of the past. The legacy of the name will forever be ingrained on the hearts and minds of us all. The Knothole Gang will still be the Knothole Gang, and your green and gold will continue to prevail. We ask you now more than ever to come together and be united. Unite for the players, unite for the alumni, this great city, and your great team. The memories are always going to be there, and we hope you will be too. We need your help in building a new legacy and a new dynasty with a new name. Thank you. Lori, back to you to explain how to ask questions.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we'll start with, we have a few questions in the queue. I'll remind you again, please type your question along with your name and your media outlet onto the Q&A box, into the Q&A box, and you'll find that at the bottom of your screen. We'll start with TSN, with Ryan Rishog from TSN, who asks, and maybe Janice can start on this question as a board decision and see if Chris has anything to add about sponsors. How much did pressure from sponsors potentially ending their relationship with the club have to do with this decision?
Thanks, Lori. No one event sparked this decision. We've had open conversations with partners, community, and fans about this issue for several years now. We're proud of the engagement that we've done. Our recent engagement has clearly indicated that attitudes toward the team name have been shifting, and we made the decision based on that. Our sponsors made it clear that they support this decision, and we appreciate the ongoing support they will be providing as we work through the implementation of this decision. We know that we can count on our sponsors for their help.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, we'll go to Carlisle Fissett of CTV News Edmonton. And Carlisle asks about the process for choosing a new name. I'm going to ask Chris to handle this question, please. What is the process for choosing a new name going to look like? What are the values that will be considered?
Well, we want to make sure that we develop the proper process, and right now we don't have that in place. And we'll take the next several days and several weeks to come up with that process. It will certainly involve our fans. It will certainly involve our partners. And we want to make sure we get this right. To that end, the values of our city, the most important ones: hard work, hardiness, intelligence, resilience, all some of the things that you've heard before will be a part of what we're looking for, and a good representation of our city and the core values across this great province. That's a big part and the biggest part of what we're looking for in our name and the process to follow.
Thank you, Chris. I have one more from Carlisle at CTV. Can you elaborate on the shifting perspectives? And maybe Janice can start on this one too, having been worked through the process of consultation. The question is, can you elaborate on the shifting perspectives on the meaning of the name to Inuit people? What led you to acknowledge these shifting opinions?
I think that most people would say that the whole world has changed in the last few months. The engagement and surveys that we've done over the last several weeks in response to current discussions clearly demonstrated that perspectives regarding the name are changing. And we made the decision to change the name as a result of this input.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question from Justin Dunk, coming from 3downnation.com. This is for Chris. Does the team plan on keeping the green and gold EE logo and colors for the team moving forward?
Justin, that's our intent, as it is to keep the double E. Certainly have to walk through the process and make sure that that's feasible. But that is definitely our intent. We understand the meaning of both of those colors and the emblem to our fans, to our community, and certainly don't want to disrupt that. There
I have, it's on the same subject by Avery Lewis McDougall from the Brad and Avery Hour, asks, was there any discussions at all about new colors on top of a new name, or was that never an option?
You know, it's not that it hasn't become an option. We simply aren't that far down the road yet. It's taking every fiber within every human being we have on our staff and our board to have this discussion over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And so our focus has been on that. Our focus will be on what do we do going forward? What's best for our community? What's best for our team? And how do we refocus everything that we've done back on football and back on our community with our current colors and the double E logo at the forefront of that?
Great. This is another question for Chris. It comes from Sarah Rogers at Nunatsiaq News. Are there plans to continue to engage with Inuit communities, including in the process of choosing a new name?
That's a good question. Our intent is to engage in the northern communities, especially in the Western Arctic, where we have made deep and long-lasting relationships. In terms of what we'll do going forward around our name in those discussions, I think it would make perfect sense to do so. We have engaged them through the process throughout the last 3 years around our name specifically, and I think it would make sense for us to have those same conversations for us around a new name as well.
Okay. Another question perhaps for Chris from Sarah Ryan. Janice may want to weigh in on this as well. Sarah Ryan from Global News asks, why make the change now? Was the decision related to the survey you put out to fans recently? And what was the feedback you received there?
I think it's clearly a really amalgamation of the last, I would call it 5 years. Certainly, this isn't a new discussion with our partners and our season seat holders and the community at large, and just an overarching discussion. It's nothing new. Then when you fast forward to the last 3 years where those before me really jumped in deep on engaging with the Inuit, both in the north and locally. And then you take that and you bring it full circle back to the survey that we gained a lot of information from in the last 10 days. You process all that information, you process all that data, and you analyze it, not to look for a specific result, but for what it's worth. And what it showed us was a dramatic shift in the opinions of how the name is perceived and the fact that we needed to change the name. And beyond that, that was gaining steam as well across all facets of our business.
Okay. Courtney Terrio asks a similar question from City News, but I'm going to ask it because there's a slight nuance on it. She said, you speak of ties to the Inuit community and how the team reflects those values. What role will Indigenous and Inuit voices have in choosing a new name? Could the name be a word from Indigenous culture?
I suspect it could. Again, I'm a little bit, we're so new into the process that we haven't even had that discussion around what that process will be. The question actually is a good scope of thought for us to consider as we develop our process going forward. And certainly that'll be a consideration that we put into the fray of all that's gone on. But in full transparency, we haven't gotten to that point of discussion quite yet.
Okay. Darcy Robchin asked what changed between last week and this week. Janice, do you want to take a crack at what changed between last week and this week?
Sure. So as of last week, the board was not in a position to make a decision as the engagement process wasn't complete. As soon as the process was complete, which was late last week and over the weekend, the board reviewed and assessed the information that came back to us. And the board then determined that it wasn't in anyone's interests to delay the decision further. And so we went ahead and made the decision that we've arrived at today.
Great. I'm going to go back to Justin Dunk at 3downnation.com. If there is a shortened season in 2020, this is for Chris, if we get a shortened season in 2020, would the club have a new name in time for playing games?
Hi, Justin. We will not. We will play as the EE football team. What uniform we will wear is yet to be determined, and our hope is that we can get to that point where we're having that discussion about which uniform to wear and how, because we do have a season. So that's the answer to that question as we stand today.
Great. Dan from CP from Canadian Press asked the same question. Dan, do feel free to ask another question, but that one Chris has just handled. Terry Jones at the Edmonton Sun, and I'll ask this to Chris as well. What's been the reaction from season ticket holders? Will sponsors pick up part of the tab? And there's a third question, is ESCs a possibility?
Terry, we haven't talked about ESCs as a possibility. When it relates to season seat holders, we firmly believe over the course of time, they'll stick with us. This is about something that's larger than the name. It's about our team. It's about our players. It's about our alumni. And we believe long-term, they will stick with us. Sponsors now more than ever, we certainly need their support, not only for what you mentioned could be a possibility, but beyond that with the rebranding and the costs associated with such, the fact that we're in a pandemic, the fact that we haven't had a home game this year and won't, and the fact that we're working on a model around a hub city and what that looks like, knowing that that's a sustainable, that's an initial sizable loss for us. So I think all those things factor in. The long term, we hope, we want the season seat holders to stick with us.
Okay. Alex Boyd from the Toronto Star, I'm about to ask your question related to some but I'll mention too that we're getting towards the end of the list of questions. So if anyone has a question, again, please type it into the box with the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen with your name and your media outlet. Alex Boyd from the Toronto Star asks, I know, and maybe we'll put this maybe first to Janice about past Inuit consultation, and then to Chris for the part of the question that deals with the future. The question is, I know you've done a lot of engagement with Inuit communities in the past. Do you plan to engage with Inuit communities or other Indigenous groups on the new name?
Yes, we do. We will have that intent as you look again at the process that we'll develop, be all encompassing. We certainly want to get the opinions of more than just a small group of people. And that's our intent with our fans, our partners, the Inuit. It's important that we've continued to walk through the process that we've walked through before and to mimic what we've done, our research and development, and frankly, our knowledge around this that's led to this decision today has come from that same group of people. So it would make sense that we would go back and have similar discussions.
Okay, great. Question from Patrick Henry from Radio Canada. And Janice, I think that this might be, there's history involved in this question. The question is, the name will not be used in the future. Will you use it when talking about the past?
I think it's important for us to always remember, recognize, and be proud of our history. As Chris has indicated, we're very early in the process, so we're not sure what that will look like. But whatever we do, we don't want to forget about our past.
Great. That is all the questions that I have on the list. I'm going to pause here for a moment to make sure, or please ping me if I missed anybody. I apologize. I don't think I did. All right, not seeing anybody. Oh, wait. Yes, Carlisle Thisset at CTV on the results of the engagement. A question potentially for Chris there.
Yeah, we won't be sharing those results. I think the results speak for themselves. I think the previous concerns about what we've done, I think recently we have really taken into account what we've seen. And again, I think the announcement today speaks for the results that we saw.
Great. And good fast typing here. We have a question from Sarah Ryan of Global News. Chris, this is a question for you. Have the players provided any feedback on removing the name?
Not directly to me. Certainly, I believe through our head coach and our general manager, they have. And I think they're in full support of the name. I would, however, tell you that they're really focused on the as-if scenario, as if we have a season. So they're really focused on staying in shape, making sure that if we do have a season, that they report to camp in great shape, because a shortened season means every game is heightened. And I know that's where their focus is, but they have fully supported, as I'm aware, what we're doing today and what we've announced with the discontinuation of the name.
Terrific. All right, that is all on my list. Pausing here for a moment. I think we're going to be able to wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Apologize for the short notice on it and for the fact that you were not able to ask questions live. It's just the nature of our world these days, and I hope that that the Zoom call has at least given you a chance to hear from both Janice and Chris. All right, and I'm not seeing any more questions pop up, so we're going to end it there. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a good afternoon.